Welcome to the Space Dreamers podcast, a Su Madre production.
Hello, Space Dreamers, and welcome to the podcast. We are here to discuss a collection of short stories by Arthur C. Clarke, this one titled Tales from the White Hart. And Hart, in this case, is spelled H-A-R-T, which at first glance confused me when I initially became aware of this little book. Today I'm joined by a less frequent yet repeating guest, Mallory. Mallory, say hello.
What's up?
What's up? How are you today, Mallory?
Brilliant.
Brilliant?
Yeah.
This is a nice weather. Have something to do with it?
Yeah, it's spring and the sun's out, so I'm happy.
We are recording this. This will go live a while from now, but we are recording it in early April in New Hampshire, where it's cold for like 6 months out of the year. And so when spring springs, we usually like... It's like you're living on a whole different planet.
Yeah, you come out of hibernation, basically.
Yeah, it's nice. So anyway, let's see. This is, it gets a little confusing, but this is technically, I think, episode 13, if you include an interview I did. But as I said, we're not talking about a novel. We're talking about a collection of short stories. This one, oh, dear Lord, hold on. Published in 1957. So this collection of short stories was published the same year as the episode that came out last week, which is a novel about the Deep Range. And so the most interesting thing about Tales from the White Hart is that I had no idea that it's not just a collection of short stories. It's a connected collection of short stories, all with a connecting tissue, which is a character called Harry Purvis, and a bar called the White Hart, or a pub, probably more accurately, because this is Clarke was British, and this is where he spent a lot of his time. And I mentioned this to you, Mallory, and I'll tell the people at home. I'm sure they already know this, but the master of the collection of short stories that are all connected is Ray Bradbury. He wrote. I've read 3 books by him that are collections of short stories wherein all the short stories are based around one event or like the same event, I guess. One of them was called Dandelion Wine. I read Dandelion Wine last year, and that was a bunch of little stories from one summer in one little town, I think in Indiana, in the 50s. So I think it was based on his childhood. But like from story to you could read each story without having read any other story, and it would make sense. It would be a nice little story.
Yeah, a little standalone.
Yeah, but this, it's most of them are like based around a family, and more importantly, one little kid. It's like his summer,
Gotcha. Basically,
like summer, like school break. It's very. There are a lot of parts. I mean, it's not science fiction, but. I don't know. It was a great book. But anyway, the sci-fi ones are The Illustrated Man and The Martian Chronicles. The Martian Chronicles probably being my favorite just because it's straight up, it's like space science fiction.
Nice.
It's about the leaving of Earth and the colonization of Mars. And all, it's like I said, it's all one event, but all the stories are not connected and very few stories share characters. Some do, but most don't.
Okay.
So that book was amazing. And The Illustrated Man, again, was amazing. I won't go into too many details, but it has a very distinct connective tissue. And this one, The Illustrated Man, is probably most similar to Tales from the White Hart, because while Tales from the White Hart, like there is something happening outside of the stories themselves that is a story.
Okay.
If that makes sense. Harry Purvis is the connecting tissue in Tales from the White Hart. It appears that Harry is telling most of these stories, and he's a guy who hangs out in a place called the White Hart, which is a pub, as I mentioned, and it's a pub where pretty much only scientists, like engineers and sci-fi writers congregate. There's even like a bartender. His name is Drew. Like, I know all these things about this place that wasn't even the focal point. I don't know. I just find it so cool. So Harry Purvis is the peddler of these stories. And then, so just to go back to this Illustrated Man, the Illustrated Man's connective tissue is that all the stories that you're reading are all tattoos on a character's body that in the nighttime, if you look at them close enough, they move and they tell a story.
That's really cool.
So those are each of the stories. And it has a badass ending, and you should just read the book and find out.
Yeah.
But I absolutely love Tales from the White Hart. And it's because of this connecting tissue in between the stories. I found myself really liking Harry Purvis and not caring if he was telling the truth or not. Like, did you find that at all? I mean, I know you didn't read the whole thing, but how did you feel about this Harry guy?
Yeah, he just seemed like that kind of fun, quirky guy that, I feel like everyone knows someone like that just chats you up the whole time. You never really believe everything he says, but it's entertaining, so you listen to it anyway.
Yeah, as long as the stories are entertaining, it's like you just get past the point where you feel like you have to clarify truth or not.
Right.
And I mean, it's a bar. Everyone's just drinking.
Yeah.
And I love, there's often times in these stories where it'll cut out of the narrative and somebody will like go get a beer or ask for a fill up or something.
Yeah, or even like try to correct him on something.
Yeah.
Like part of the story.
Yeah, and so the one thing that needs to be pointed out with this collection is that because all the stories are basically like half truths, meaning if you were gullible enough you would believe them, means that none of them can take place millions of years from now. None of them can take place on other planets. None of them can take place in other galaxies. None of them can be about aliens or traveling to space and blah, blah, blah. They're all pretty light and somewhat like they're stories that are told like kind of like religion, and that there's no way to prove whether it's true or false.
Yeah, that's a good
by
analogy.
the very nature of the story itself, because usually every story ends with pretty much every story is about an inventor who invents something in order to solve some problem, and by the end of the story, usually both the inventor and the invention are lost. So there's no way to know if it ever really happened, which is kind of cool. But it kind of paints you into a corner as to what your stories are going to be about. They're going to be about inventors inventing things that are a little far-fetched, but could potentially maybe exist if explained by a scientist.
It also makes like all of Harry Purvis's stories kind of pointless because they never really go anywhere.
Yeah, they never go anywhere except for the last one, but we'll get there.
Okay.
So although Clarke is not nearly as clever in this instance as Ray Bradbury is with The Illustrated Man and how that masterpiece ends, Clarke does weave in a little bit of the bar scene into one of the final stories. And it's kind of cool. But we'll get there. So the way I've done a couple collections of short stories so far, I think I've only done 2. Yeah, I did 2, both with Heather. And this one, I want to do it a little different. I just want to go through my notes, and I'm going to basically explain to Mallory and in turn explain to the listener every story and what it was about. And if it grabbed me and I really loved it, I'll go into more detail. If it didn't, then I'll just give a brief description. And when we get to the stories that Mallory has read, we'll go into deep discussion.
How many stories are a part of this collection of the White Hart?
I think there's 15.
Okay. So
Yes.
I only read 3 of 15. So
Yeah, and this says 15 hilarious and wholly delightful adventures. That's what they're called. And honestly, I'm going to read this thing on the back because it's pretty cool. It says, "You come upon the White Hart quite unexpectedly in one of these anonymous little lanes leading down from Fleet Street to the embankment. It's no use telling you where it is. Very few people who have set out in determined effort to get there have ever actually arrived. For the first dozen visits, a guide is essential. After that, you'll probably be all right if you close your eyes and rely on instinct. Also, to be perfectly frank, we don't want any more customers." So that's where all the stories that you read are told, in a place called the White Hart. So let's start at numero uno. The first story is called Silence, Please. And basically, I liked this one. I didn't love it. It wasn't mind-blowing. It was cool, though. Basically, it was about a guy who wanted to create a silencer.
Like for a gun?
No, just for any noise.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, I could be getting these wrong because I'm like pumping a 150 page book into 1 week, and so if I get the details wrong, I'm sorry. But he wants to create a silencer, and he does so at a concert with like a clarinet player or something, like a flute player. And he finds out that whatever this thing he invented works, and that it collects all sound. And like, so you could be looking at someone who has this device, and they're talking and making noise, but there's no noise. Like, you don't hear anything. But what he doesn't realize is that what his device is actually doing is collecting the sound as energy, storing it up, but it's not going anywhere. So
it's just pent-up energy balling up and up.
Yeah, within this device.
Okay.
So then So the story, kind of the action is in like a concert, and this guy plays all these notes, and they're silent, and everyone's like impressed, and then something goes wrong, and everything just like the device fails, and it like explodes with sound, and like blows everyone in the room like back 20 feet, like it's violent. So, and at the end of that is that the device gets destroyed. The inventor of the device realizes it's not a good idea to have this thing, and so. It's gone. Goes the way of the dinosaurs. You never can really know if it existed.
Nice.
So I thought that story was kind of cool. I mean, it's good because it's short.
Yeah.
Just a cool idea, I guess. Big Game Hunt was the second story. And this one was, again, pretty good. A guy invents a device through which he can control animals.
Cool.
And he only does it to mollusks and invertebrates. So then he, for whatever reason, he realizes that he needs to, he should only do it to invertebrates, and he thinks the biggest one would be the most impressive, and the biggest one is the giant squid. So him and another guy go out into the ocean, and they somehow get this giant squid to come to the surface. I don't even remember how. They do it through mind control. The thing works, and they're able to control this giant squid, which surfaces, and it's like 50 feet long.
Shit.
And then while they're in control of this behemoth, the machine fails, and it then becomes the master of its own mind, and it realizes that these people were just fucking with it, and it kills them.
Of course.
And so that reminds me of, wait, did you read The Lost World?
Yes, I did.
You did?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, do you remember the scene in The Lost World? Might be my favorite scene in that whole book, when you've got like your bad guys who are like Dodson, like the evil guys from Injun or whatever.
Yeah.
Like they go to the island to steal eggs, steal dinosaur eggs to then, make money. Mm-hmm. And they plan on doing this with a machine that's like it's shaped like a gun, and it shoots these like sound waves at whatever you're pointing it at, and they fuck up your ears.
Oh, right.
So when they do it to the T-Rex, basically they come upon this T-Rex nest, and they see the eggs, and I think there's 2 T-Rexes, or maybe 1, I can't remember. But
there's 2.
There's 2?
I think
so. They're shooting the gun at it, and it's like, blasting this noise at the T-Rex, and it's like an animal, so it doesn't know what's going on. So it's just like shaking its head and like backing away, and you have power over this creature by basically fucking with its ears.
Yeah, disorienting it so much.
Exactly. So, but what's so funny is that in the middle of that happening, the gun thing, the sound gun, just breaks and shuts off. So you can just imagine that moment in a movie. It would be so good. And of course they left it out of the movie because the movie is whatever.
Yeah.
But the novel is so much better than the movie.
Yeah, it is.
But
both of them are.
Yeah. So you have this confused T-Rex who can't protect its baby. So one guy's shooting him with a gun, and the other guy is like sneaking up, grabbing the egg, which is probably like as big as his big stupid head.
Right.
So then the thing shuts off, and you could see it in a movie where it's just like this noise stops, the T-Rex kind of shakes its head, and then looks over and sees these 2 moronic primates trying to steal its baby, and obviously, people get eaten.
Doesn't go well.
Yeah, it is such a good scene, and I loved it, and it reminded me of this one. But honestly, Michael Crichton did it better.
Yeah.
But who am I to judge? So that story was okay.
I'm starting to see a pattern here that don't trust technology.
Yeah.
It's going to fail on you.
Pretty much. According to Harry Purvis, that's...
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay, the next one is called Patent Pending. This one, if you look it up, people say that Clarke kind of foresaw VR with this one.
Like virtual reality?
Yeah, so it's basically about it's about a guy who wants to invent a device that allows you to have experiences without actually doing it. Which is basically VR.
Yeah.
So he figures initially, but what he does is he attaches all these like electrodes to somebody's head and has them do something.
Okay.
And then records their brain activity.
Okay.
So that then you could take that recording of their brain activity and inject it into your own brain so that you feel like you're doing what that person did.
That's trippy.
So you could have someone like wrestle with an alligator, and then as long as they're hooked up to this thing, you could record that and you could know what it feels like to wrestle an alligator without being in danger. So initially he finds a master chef to cook a meal and then eat it. And then he records that, and then he experiences it, and he's like, wow, this is like, I've never felt this before, but this is amazing. And then, what do you think he decides to record?
After a chef? Oh, God. I don't know. Maybe having sex?
Exactly.
Okay.
So he
Right
records, I feel like he does it with a prostitute. I could be wrong. I can't remember. But the point is, what he records, yes, he does. So he records it with a woman who's like really good at sex.
Okay.
So that he has like this perfect recording to experience.
Right. You don't want a shitty VR sexual experience.
Exactly. So he does that, and then he has a girlfriend. So he does that. It's technically scientific research, right? Trying to invent something to better the world.
Yeah.
So I don't think he feels guilty about it.
No.
But then because he has this recording and it's amazing, he doesn't want to spend any time with his girlfriend.
Okay.
He's like obsessed with this recording.
Yep. It became better than real life for him, huh?
Exactly. So what happens is, his girlfriend ends up killing him because she thinks he's cheating. So, like, there goes that inventor,
right?
And his invention.
Well, where does invention go?
I honestly don't remember.
Because that could still be lingering out there.
True. And actually, I put a note in my notes saying that at this point in the book, other characters start to tell Harry Purvis that he's probably full of shit.
Okay.
Like in this one.
They're now just like, okay, bro.
Yeah. And it's like at this, I wrote, another character remarks how all these stories are the same. Some invention that works but kills its inventor, so nobody can still use the tech now. That was my hasty note that I wrote. So I was just like, at the end of that story, the other characters are like, listen, Harry, all your stories end with your inventor dying and their invention being lost.
Right.
Like,
no proof.
Yeah. Give us a story where like something fucking like where there's proof.
Right.
You know? So next, that story was really good. I liked that one. It was pretty cool. So then there's Armaments Race. Mm-hmm. This one's kind of silly. It's about Hollywood special effects creators.
Okay.
And how there's these special effects. They're starting to make sci-fi movies, and there's these special effects guys who are in this crazy competition to make the most convincing ray gun.
Okay.
So this
for the movies.
Yeah, for a movie.
Okay.
And so they start off with making like one, and they're like, it's pretty good.
Could be better.
And then they just get into this competition, and it ends up to they make a Mark 13. So they've just been making a bunch of these. There isn't even a movie for it. They're just making them because they want to make the best one.
Yeah.
So then by Mark 13 eventually becomes an actual death ray.
Oh.
Like they get too carried away. So because they get too carried away, basically what happens is the story, and this one is weird too, because this one is told in the bar with the guy involved is actually there.
Oh.
So actually this one breaks the mold.
It does.
But it's just about like, I mean, props, you know. So I guess it's not a real invention, but it is a death ray. But anyway.
Well, it does become a real invention eventually.
But the punchline ending, how it ends is that the special effects guy who made the ray gun, the death ray, left Hollywood, and he's only making movies in the UK because they don't make crazy special effects driven movies there. and he also says that he won't make weapons for a movie beyond a crossbow.
Okay. So he learned his lesson.
Yeah. So he'll only use like old weapons, I guess.
Old weapons, yeah.
Yeah. So that one was okay.
Yeah, a little different.
It's pretty good. Okay, so Critical Mass is the one that
Wait, so how did he die, though?
He didn't die. He's in the UK now.
Oh, so that's another difference.
Yeah.
There's one he didn't die. Okay.
True. And I didn't put in my notes what happens to the death ray.
Yeah. I figured that maybe the two ding-dongs, like, blew each other up with the death
They probably
ray.
did. Yeah, right? I'm sure someone got blown up. That's why he's in the UK only making crossbows.
Right.
Okay.
And he doesn't mention it because it's a murder, and he doesn't want to get caught.
Yeah. This is all speculation, because even though I read it, I really don't remember if anyone dies. Okay, one more story, and then we're going to get to one that both of us read. Okay, Critical Mass. I think I already told you about this one. So this one, it's the one where there's like a chemical plant nearby. They don't know what they're making. They're making some sketchy shit. They think it's like poison or something.
Yeah.
And so there's this delivery truck leaving from it, and the delivery truck swerves all over the road. This happens right outside the White Hart. This delivery truck swerving, and then it crashes, and then the driver of the truck gets out and runs away screaming. He's like running very far. And he leaves. He's like, ends up in the woods. And so the people in the White Hart are like, what are we going to do about this truck? Like, there's this ominous black cloud around the truck. And they're like, that must be poison. That must be why he ran away.
Right.
So eventually two of them, I think, get up the guts to go and explore and find out. And the black cloud is bees. And the dude was running from bees.
I like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny. It's
just silly.
Yeah, it's not sci-fi, but I don't know. Okay, now the ultimate melody. So, Mallory, take over.
So, this one I really liked. It was really cool. So, a guy creates a machine, another invention, that is going to, I guess, basically go through all different kinds of like tones and melodies and find the ultimate melody that's like the most pleasing, the most appealing to the ear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, I just want to point out one really quick thing. I know I just said I was going to stop talking, but dude, one thing I recently learned, ultimate is a great word. Do you know what it means?
I mean, I couldn't tell you the definition, no.
It means it's like perfect, so it's the last one.
Oh, so yeah, the ultimate.
Right?
The best.
Exactly. So if you know the definition of that word, it almost like makes, I think ultimate's a good word for science fiction.
Yeah.
And the reason I even know that too is because I'm learning Spanish, and ultimo means final. Like
like the end.
Exactly. So it means it's the last thing. So
Gotcha.
I feel like when we use ultimate, we think of ultimate means like the best or the perfect.
Right.
It's like the ultimate cheeseburger is like the most delicious cheeseburger ever. But really, the ultimate cheeseburger would be the last cheeseburger ever.
Yeah, they would be no room to make any more
Exactly.
improvements.
So it's just like, it's a good insight, I think, for this story when it comes to what ends up happening. So continue. Tell us what it's about.
I'm trying to remember what ends up happening now.
You don't? Oh, I took notes, so I remember.
Yeah. How does it end again? I forgot.
Well, he succeeds.
I read this over a week ago. So
he succeeds. Remember?
He does succeed. He does make the ultimate. Oh wait, I remember now.
Okay.
So how could I forget? Because it reminded me of another story. Yeah. So he succeeds, and it makes the most perfect melody. And then as that music is playing, it's like too much for his brain to handle. So he just goes insane.
Yeah, I love that concept.
Yeah.
So they talk early in the story about why is it, and everyone can relate to this, how is it that some songs get stuck in your head?
Right, yeah.
Like, what is the difference between a song that gets stuck in your head and plays over and over again for like a week and a song that you hear and you don't really think of again, even if you might like it?
Yeah. Yeah, like, it could be like your favorite song, but you're not singing it over and over again.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure the scientist in the story determines that those songs are, not intentionally, but are tapping into like a certain, matching your brain waves.
Yeah, like a neural link or something.
Yeah, it's like a harmony of like the rhythm that your brain is working at, and these are not intelligent person terms, so I'm sorry. So like the rhythm at which your brain is operating, and then if the song goes in tandem with that,
right,
that it'll basically put your brain on like this loop.
Yeah, so it's like really enjoyable for it.
Yeah, so the way it's described is that he's basically in a trance.
Yeah.
And he'll like never get out of it.
That's pretty cool.
Which is cool, especially because it's like the only like. I mean, yeah, someone getting killed by a squid is like, whatever. I mean, but those guys deserved it because they were fucking with squids.
Right.
This guy, like, that's a super dark ending.
It is a super dark ending.
And
part of me wondered, like, did he die or did he just stay insane, like, for the rest of his life?
I bet he's just crazy.
I think he's just crazy.
And he's just enjoying that tune over and over again for
he's
the rest
like
of his
that guy
life.
in the corner rocking back and forth looking super happy, but no one knows why.
Exactly. So maybe you're envious of him.
Maybe.
But no, I'm not. So did you like that story?
I did actually like that story a lot.
And I remember you mentioned that it's similar to the 9 billion names of God.
Yeah, it just kind of reminded me of it because, like, it's kind of like once you finally, like, this machine that clicked through all these different things, just like it clicked through all the letters of this alphabet.
Right.
And then finally stopped when it stops and the mission's done. And then what happens? Everything goes away or stops. Or
Yeah, and you could basically say that the 9 billionth name was the ultimate name.
Yeah, I guess you could say
the ultimate name of God.
Yeah.
Which is, it's the last
the
name.
The last one.
Once you do that, you're all set. Okay. Next, the Pacifist. Okay, this one was funny. And then the next one after that will be another one that you and I both read. So I'll give a super quick description of the Pacifist.
Okay.
So this one was funny. And I would love to see it, not a full movie, but a short film I think would be hilarious. So, okay, so in this one, your inventor wants to create basically like a computer or a machine that will tell you the outcome of a war before you fight it so that you don't have to fight it.
Well, that would be nice.
It would be very nice.
Yeah.
So
solve a lot of problems.
And it's framed in like, so you would type in, it's framed in that you can it's a mathematical, it determines mathematical equations, but you can ask it questions without numbers and it'll use math to determine the answer.
Okay.
So you
like
can
an algorithm.
Yeah, so you can say to it like, if this army has this many people, this army has this many people, like what will the outcome be? I guess you type in like what kind of weapons they have and the computer will just tell you.
Yeah, statistically, this would happen and
precisely.
Yeah.
So, but in this story, and I can't remember, I think the person tasked with creating this thing doesn't want to be involved with war. Doesn't want to be involved with fighting. He only cares about quote unquote pure mathematics.
Okay.
And they talk about in the story, there's a great quote, and I can't remember. I wish I did. And it's a joke, but it's kind of true, where like pure mathematics has zero relevance to the world. Like pure mathematics means nothing to your everyman. But the outcome of a war certainly has an effect on everyone.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, but I guess if you're a pure mathematician, you still want to sit there and waste your time with pure mathematics. And that's what the inventor of this thing wants to do.
Yeah.
But instead he's tasked with figuring out how wars will end. So what he does, and the general who's in charge of this whole thing is a total asshole. So this guy, he makes it so that the computer will only do pure mathematics, but if you ask it a question about war, the computer will make a disparaging comment about the general that has nothing to do with war or math.
Nice.
So, like, if you ask it a simple math question, it'll tell you with ultimate accuracy. But if you ask it, like, who will win this war, blah, 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 it'll be like, General whatever over there is an asshat. And, like, but he didn't tell anyone that that's what's happening.
Right.
It was funny.
That's funny.
But thinking about it, it's kind of fucked up, because if that dude had just invented that thing, then we wouldn't have any wars.
Right.
So it's kind of like...
Would have saved a lot of lives.
Yeah, like, okay, you love pure mathematics, but, like, don't you love people and not having wars?
There's like a higher purpose here.
Okay, the next Tenants. So tell us what you thought.
It's a pretty cool little story.
Yeah. I'd say it gets closest to Clarke's, like, epic, profound stories.
Yeah, and it kind of just, again, kind of touches on, like, how humanity basically is doing. Like, are we not very good creatures for this world? Or could someone else do it better? Kind of philosophy that Clarke touches on sometimes. So, Yeah, this story was about, Purvis, again, is telling a story about was it him being on the atoll or someone else?
I don't remember.
Okay. Well, so they go to this atoll way out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Nothing else is around. And he thinks he's all alone there. And I guess they're doing some kind of science experiment out there. That's why they're out there. And then this old man just stumbles upon him. And isn't he Japanese? Maybe they don't say. But his name sounds Japanese. But yeah, so he runs across him, and I guess he's been living there for a while and studying the termites.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got this little idea that I guess he thinks the termites could eventually, like, they're collectively very intelligent, but individually not so much, so that if he starts to train them to do these certain things, that they will ultimately just learn as a group and get smarter and smarter.
Yeah, he specifically points out that a termite by itself is infinitely dumber than a human, but a termite colony is infinitely smarter than a human.
Yeah, so like they could, working together, be better than humans.
Right, and one of the things he points out that's important is that as a colony, a termite colony is essentially like evolutionary perfection. So that's why the termites have not evolved to overtake humans, because in terms of evolution and just surviving as a species, they're perfect the way they are.
Right.
So for the past millions of years, termites haven't evolved.
Yeah, there's no need.
Even if they had continued, the point is that if they had continued, they would have surpassed humans.
They're the ultimate insect.
There you go. There you go.
And so he learns their language, right? And that's how he is able to communicate with them.
Yeah, I don't really remember
Does he
how.
create something
Well,
that communicates with them?
I don't really know.
I don't think so. I think he just figures it out somehow.
What I remember the most is that I feel like he's just testing them to see if they can become smarter with his help. And then one of the things that blew my mind is how he goes, so he gives the termites tools and he gives them fire.
Yeah, I remember the part's cool where he's like, "What do you think I'm going to give him next?" And he's like, "Fire."
Yeah. So
the
it's
other guy's all concerned.
Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's just a really cool idea. And I think what's really interesting, and one comment that he makes, is that if termites even if termites didn't become smart, if they just did what I'm about to explain, they would kill us. Is that they could, if there was a war between termites and humans, termites would win. Undoubtedly, because they could eat all our crops.
Oh, yeah. Easy.
And that's one thing that he points out in the story that I really thought was cool.
They could probably just work together, climb, and eat all of us individually.
Yeah.
If there's enough of them.
True.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I don't know.
But then you give them fire and tools.
Yeah. Then you have...
And they start learning and evolving more and more.
Yeah.
Then they have weapons.
Yeah. And it's funny, dude, because one of the short stories that Heather and I read for a previous episode was about a guy who has failing health, so he wants to freeze himself to wake up at an earlier age when medicine is more advanced, so he can save his life.
Right.
And something goes wrong where he wakes up like 1 billion years from now, and he finds out that the moment he wakes up, he finds out that basically the last line of the story is that he's surrounded by unfamiliar beings, and that insects have finally won the war between man and insect. So
this is not a new concept.
Yeah, apparently not. So he wakes up to these sentient insects who have wiped out all of humanity.
That's crazy.
And they have telepathy.
Of course they do. Why wouldn't they?
And that's how he knows, is that he wakes up and all of a sudden he just in his head knows that who these beings are and that they're not humans.
Yeah, it's just like it comes upon him all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Huh. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I thought the next Tenants I thought was pretty, it was like a deep thinking story, whereas most of the stories in this collection are not particularly deep.
Yeah, you could go a little deeper into thinking who is this random guy on the island? Is he the creator guy of this new termite civilization that eventually will take over the world when humans no longer are capable of doing it.
Yeah.
Because we fuck it up somehow.
And I like that idea, too, of there being, we think of, obviously, of ourselves as masters of planet Earth, but there are probably, in terms of evolution, there must be several species on this planet that are perfect.
Oh, yeah.
That haven't evolved.
Well, I mean, look at sharks.
Well, I was just going to say, there's like that thing that they say that like great white sharks, like some shark species haven't evolved for like millions of years.
They were already like super predators.
Yeah.
They didn't need to be any better. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I just think it's a cool idea.
It is a cool idea. It's a cool concept.
Yeah. All right. What else? The next. Okay. Moving Spirit. This one was kind of stupid. I don't know. This one was about so a scientist is basically, I mean, I don't know enough about, like, the legality of alcohol in the UK. Okay. But it takes place at a time when alcohol is illegal. So there's a scientist making alcohol at his house. But his cover story is that he's making bombs for his own country's military. Okay. And then, but he's also like sketchy. He's like in court and he has to prove it. So he has one of his bombs, but it's booze, and it goes off and makes everyone drunk. Huh. No one dies. Everyone just gets drunk.
Everyone just gets hammered.
So I think at the end they find out that would actually be a good weapon.
Yeah, so because if you inebriate people, you could just take them out.
So they just bomb their enemies with drunk bombs.
At least they had fun on their way out.
Right. Or not, you wouldn't even have to kill them. You would just be like, okay, drunkies, get in the paddy wagon.
Yeah,
like,
taking you to jail.
We're going to the jail cell. That'd be so funny.
There's food there, I promise.
Okay, so telling that story in a few sentences is funny, but reading it was a little bit not entertaining. Yeah. The next one, The Man Who Plowed the Sea. Huh. This one was like kind of interesting, but it was... The last line I wrote was didn't really like this one. So, I don't know, man. It was about these two guys who, like, this one dude made a submarine, and so they're in this homemade submarine, and they're swimming, or they're down under, like, 20 feet below the surface, and this boat drives over them, and they realize that it doesn't have a propeller, but it has, like, a jet stream. Okay. It's like a jet-powered boat.
Yeah, like a jet ski.
Well, yeah, but this is back when that wasn't a... Right. This is in the 50s.
Gotcha.
So...
Yeah, that didn't exist yet.
Like jet airplanes had been invented like 15 years before. You know what I mean? Like this is a new thing. Yeah. So they surface and they go to the boat and they just want to know, like, yo, dude, what's up with your boat? Like, why is there no propeller? Are you being propelled with a jet? Like, what's going on here? Right. And he's like the super, super rich billionaire guy. And he basically explains that if you drive the boat, it's using the water in the jet to propel itself, but at the same time, it's extracting minerals from the ocean.
Whoa, that's cool.
Really valuable minerals. Yeah. So I guess you just he
just like stored in a tank under the seat or something like.
Well, he uses it to like, and then he sells it.
Oh, he collects it and he sells the minerals.
That's the point. And so then, I mean, the story ended with the guy, like, kind of cheating this other guy about the invention. He like tricks him into buying it when it's worth less than it's really worth. Something I just didn't care. Okay. I mean, the idea of extracting minerals with a jet, like the idea that's cool is that, like, okay, you have a boat, like, and you want to enjoy the boat, so you want to go places. Right. But the point is that every time you go somewhere, you're like making money. Yeah, because the thing is extracting the minerals just by going. Yeah. So I don't know. It was kind of cool, but
easy job.
Yeah.
I'd like that job, actually. Just ride around on a boat all day.
Yeah, of course.
It's awesome.
Okay, now the Reluctant Orchid.
Yeah, this is a fun one.
Tell us about the Reluctant Orchid.
Yeah, this is a really fun story. It's again starts off with Harry telling a story about he's like a younger guy who's kind of
sheepish.
Loner. He's a loner. He's kind of nerdy, and he collects like beautiful orchids and takes care of them. And I guess that's what he's known for, like in his little community. Yeah. So he one day comes across this one particular plant that's very unique. So he gets it and he brings it home and he's caring for it. And he has this aunt who's a bit eccentric, I guess. She's like kind of a bitch.
Right.
And loves him, and he hates her.
Yeah, she comes and visits every Sunday, right?
Yeah,
and
she's
he
like
hates it.
Yeah, and she's like always like wanting to take him places and do things with him, but he like hates every minute of it. But he pretends to like her because he's so afraid of her that she thinks that she'll basically kill him if she ever.
Yeah, isn't she like really athletic or something?
Yeah, and she has like she breeds big breed dogs.
Yeah,
like
yeah, and he is physically a frail person.
Yeah,
and she is like taller than him and just bigger and muscular. Yeah, and just a larger.
She was like an athlete of some
more
kind,
imposing human or something. I don't know.
Yeah. So going back to the plant, he realizes eventually that the plant is a carnivore.
Yeah.
It's a meat eater. So he really thinks, hey, this is like a great way to get rid of my problem.
Right.
My aunt.
Right.
Who I hate so much. So he spends all this time like training the plant to eat her at the right moment.
Yeah.
So she comes over and he's like, great, everything's going as planned. And she goes over to the plant, and what happens with the plant that she points out that she's like, you must be bullying it. You're not taking good care of it.
The plant is just like really shy like he is.
Yeah.
And it won't eat her.
Right. It's like not doing what he wants it to do.
Yeah. And so when she sees the plant in this terrified state,
yes,
she basically blames
him for
her
it.
nephew. She's like, why are you treating this plant like why is it so terrified? Like, you need to be nice to living things.
Yeah. When really, I think he's probably just afraid of her because she's probably very, has quite a presence.
Yeah, but I wonder, reading that story, like, I feel like maybe the point is that the plant acts like that because
he's like that.
Yeah, and so it's just being influenced by its own caretaker.
Yeah.
Like, you emulate your environment. Like, you're a product of your environment.
Right.
So, I don't know. Like, you expect it to eat the lady, but...
Right. But wasn't he also just feeding the plant like meat from the butcher?
Yeah.
So like the plant had never eaten a human before. So
true.
Maybe it didn't even know to eat it.
Right.
Because he's like, well, this guy gives me food. Why would I eat people? They seem pretty cool.
But it's just, I don't know. I feel like the punchline of the story is just that it's called the Reluctant Orchid.
Yeah.
Like at first you're like, what does that even mean?
Right.
And then by the end you're like, oh.
Yeah, he's
literally,
reluctant.
a reluctant orchid.
Yeah, so he never eats her, he never kills her, and like the aunt just basically like now wants to come over even more.
Yeah.
To like train this plant because she's this like big time dog breeder and trainer.
Yeah.
That's
so
like what she does.
She thinks she knows how to take care of things better than he does.
Yeah. So it backfired on him pretty.
But you have to wonder, like, if she's such a harsh, intense person, then the plant would probably then become like a big time, like a menacing carnivore.
Right.
If it hangs out with her all the time.
You would think so. But also, like, I think going to your point about how the plant acts like him, she was always putting him down in certain ways. So maybe she's kind of like that with the plant. The plant might still be like him and stay reluctant.
Yeah, maybe
he's afraid of her.
Maybe the plant was reluctant because of her, not because of him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good one.
It seems to me she was quite a domineering presence.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, I love how that's how it ends, is her scolding him for mistreating a plant, when really his plan was fucking cold-blooded murder.
Right.
And she's like, how dare you treat this plant so poorly? It's like, I was just planning your murder.
Right.
It's like kind of funny.
I was trying to teach it.
Right. Okay, so as you know, if you're a frequent listener of this podcast, usually we watch a film that has in some way or another to do with the novel that we're reading, like some kind of connection. So with this one, once I realized the Reluctant Orchid was in this collection, I decided that we should watch Little Shop of Horrors, which is a film from 1986, directed by Frank Oz, starring Steve Martin, Bill Murray. Who's the main guy? Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis, yeah.
The woman was famous.
Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
What's the woman's name? Kelly something.
Yeah.
She's a good actress.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I have to look this up.
We'll have to look it up. But I had never seen Little Shop of Horrors. I didn't really know what it was. I just knew that it was about a big plant. What's up?
Her name's Ellen Green.
Okay, yeah, Ellen Green. She was great. But I knew it was about a carnivorous plant. I didn't really know. I knew there was something weird about it. Like I knew that it was a weird movie, but I didn't really know why. And now that I've seen it, I get why it's weird. It's weird because it's a musical, which I didn't really know. It's, as we mentioned earlier, based on it was originally a film, and then it was adapted into a musical on a stage.
Yeah, it was off Broadway for several years.
Yes, you know what else is off Broadway?
What?
This podcast. So then they adapted the musical into a movie. So when no music movie, music on stage, then music in movie.
Yeah, musical film.
All about a plant.
Yep.
And it's very similar to that story that we just read. Well, kind of. I mean, what's his name? That plant is certainly not Reluctant.
No.
In the movie.
No.
But I think that the main character is similar to Rick Moranis' character.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. The kind of loner, shy, nerdy, collects strange plants.
Yes.
Exotic plants.
Definitely, like the best word would be his demeanor. The demeanors were the same.
Yeah. Very timid.
Yeah. And we talked a little bit about this before with Amy, our other frequent co-host. So I'm trying to think of, like, where do we even start? I mean, I guess it's weird too because it was made in the 80s, but it's technically like a 50s period piece, which I honestly, for some weird reason, and there just might be no reason to even say this, but I find that period pieces made in the 80s are always fucking awesome.
Yeah, especially when they cover like the 50s.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but they do a good job.
I think it's because anything that takes place in the 80s is so, like, just visually so obviously the 80s, usually. Yeah. Things that take place in the 80s that were made in the 80s.
Yeah, especially nowadays.
Yeah, and so to watch something made in the 80s that isn't supposed to take place in the 80s is cool.
Yeah.
Because then you're not distracted by how fucking 80s it is.
Yeah, it's almost retro within retro.
Yeah, dude, I love it.
Yeah.
The best example, and this isn't sci-fi, but I'm going to say it because it's the best example and probably the impetus for me to say this, is the film Amadeus.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which was made, I think, in 1984, maybe 1982. I can't quite remember, but it's a period piece from, like, the 1700s. And it's just, I don't know. There's something about, like, the quality of the film, or, like, the actual film they're using. Like, the quality of the picture with that, like, aesthetic. I don't know. I just love it. But that's not sci-fi.
Well, it's like the Little Shop of Horrors, too. I think, like, what's interesting that I didn't know about until after we watched the musical film, the 80s version, was that the original story, it seems to be more horror and sci-fi, whereas, like, Little Shop of Horrors is definitely, like, it's a black comedy and a musical. Yeah. You know, so, like, they're kind of very different. So now I'm really curious to go back and watch the original.
Yeah, I would like to watch the original, too. I don't know if I ever will, but I don't know. I'm more just still baffled by the fucking one that I watched last night.
It's pretty amazing.
Like, I like weird movies.
Yeah.
But sometimes weird feels not intentional or something.
Yeah.
And I just felt like the tone of Little Shop of Horrors was not even remotely even.
Yeah.
It kind of bounced around.
It definitely, for me, because I the first time I ever saw Little Shop of Horrors was actually a play.
Oh.
So then watching this movie, it's just so Broadway. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's like kind of what I see. It's like quirky and a little weird, and like, you know, like the little woman Aubrey, like how she talks in this little squeaky voice the whole time. It just makes you want to wring your neck, you know? Like, and she's so pathetic the whole time. Yeah, and it's just like, I think that's it's just very theatrical.
Yeah, and even just the scenes and the sets. Yeah. Like, you could just tell that this was made for a stage. Yeah. Like, every time they were in the shop, especially in the beginning, and it was like the three of them, it was just so...
Yeah, the lighting. Yeah. You could actually tell, like, the background was, like, a prop a
Which
lot
I
of
love.
times.
Okay,
yeah.
Time the fuck out, dude. Okay. You can do amazing things with CGI. Okay, I'm all down with technology getting better. But why has no one made a film now that's CGI that takes place on another planet or in some fantasy land where they use those fucking painted backgrounds.
Right?
They're so beautiful.
Yeah.
And they're so otherworldly looking, dude. Like, they work so fucking well.
Yeah, it's like they're so caught up in using all this technology, they forget like the simplicity
Oh my God,
of that
dude.
style really works.
And like it's really up to the artist, man. Like, if you can make your matte painting look convincing,
Right.
or just match the style of the film and like what you're going for, it's so much better than just some CGI like perfect shiny little background.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like, I think we've had the conversation before about how like you had old monsters versus like the new ones, where like sometimes it's really cool just to see what you can do with makeup and prosthetics.
Oh yeah.
You know, instead of everything being CGI.
Right.
Like, you can still make it look really good.
Like, there's something to say about, especially like all these old Arthur C. Clarke book covers, and like people love that shit. People
the art is cool.
Like that sci-fi illustration. Like, if you just translate that to a movie, and you'll have so many people, I feel like, fiending for that kind of thing.
Yeah, because they just love the aesthetic.
And everyone's throwing back these days. Like, it just surprises me that no one's made a movie where they only use techniques from the 80s.
Yeah.
So this is kind of sci-fi because of the album I'm about to talk about. But one of my favorite bands is Depeche Mode, and they put out an album in 2009, and it's called Sounds of the Universe.
Okay, I remember that one, yeah.
And it's really good. But the gimmick is that they made the album using only synthesizers and musical technology that was available in the 1980s.
That's cool.
But when you listen to it, it doesn't sound like it was made in the 80s.
Yeah.
So my point is, if you take old techniques but use modern expertise, you can make something that doesn't look old or new.
Yeah.
And that's what I want.
Yeah, that's a great thing. Like, to blend both of them, it would be perfect.
Yes.
I agree.
I think some movies have done that to varying degrees and varying successes. In other, like, this isn't sci-fi, but I'll mention it super quick. And just because it is a success, in my opinion, is the recent Three Stooges movie.
Oh, I've not seen this.
So the thing about it is that it's made in a style from like the 30s and the 40s.
Right.
Okay. But it's made now with current technology.
Okay.
It doesn't look like it was made in the 30s or the 40s.
Right.
It doesn't look like it was made now because
Yeah.
it's filmed using their... So, okay, this is the thing about... Most people probably wouldn't waste their time doing this, but when I watched this new film, The Three Stooges, which is like a Farrelly Brothers thing,
Okay.
you almost have to watch the movie 3 times. And that's because every single time the Three Stooges are in a scene, which is every scene,
Yeah.
Three Stooges,
Yeah.
all 3 of them are on camera at once.
Huh.
So you can't watch...
Just one face.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
so like, not that anyone would do this, it's the fucking Three Stooges, but like, if you went back, if you watched the movie and only looked at one of them in every single shot, and then only looked at the other one in every single shot, and then only looked at the other one in every single shot, you would have a full picture of the movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's
reactions to what other people are saying to you.
and that's a old technique.
Yeah.
Movies aren't made like that anymore. They're not made with like a bunch of people on screen every shot. I mean,
Yeah.
it's because it's the Three Stooges. It's like
Right.
a team of idiots.
Yeah.
But like, that's my point. So for me, when I love that movie, The Three Stooges, because A, it's fucking hysterical.
I'm sure.
B, you get to see Larry David play a fucking nun.
Larry David's in that?
And
Okay, now I have to
there
watch
is
it.
no explanation as to why he's a dude and he's a nun.
He's a nun.
They don't fucking acknowledge it, and it's so funny. But anyway, it's this perfect blend of the old school techniques, but it's almost like update only what needs to be updated. Like, there's
Yeah.
a reason everyone knows about the Three Stooges.
Of course.
It's, people like funny people hitting each other.
It's
That's
classic,
funny. Yeah,
yeah.
slapstick, dude. It's been
Yeah.
around since the visual medium. So,
Right.
so, I guess my point is, if you only update what needs to be updated.
Yeah, like
And
just tinker it a little.
Yeah, and that's what the most successful remasters or remakes of video games are, the ones that keep the video game, but any antiquated gaming like technique or like device or whatever that is just alien to a gamer now.
Right.
You get rid of that and you replace it with something that will just improve functionality.
Right.
I get that video games are different from movies, but my major point here is, and I'll end my rant, is that do the old shit that people still long for, but get rid of what didn't work at the time that people, when they go, basically what you forget when you wear your rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah.
What isn't tinted in rose.
Yeah.
That's what you leave behind. But the rose tint, you keep it.
Yeah. You keep the good stuff and you leave back the stuff that didn't work, and that's why they created a newer way of doing it.
Right. And in my opinion, to circle back, what does work is those goddamn matte paintings, dude. Those paintings as backgrounds. And I'm sure you watched Dune recently, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sure they used them.
Yeah, they
Maybe
did.
You can't. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're fucking awesome.
Yeah, you can tell that like a lot of it's like probably hand painted, and it's really neat.
I love that. But at the same time, I don't love stop motion.
Yeah.
You know, like give me some CGI.
Yeah.
Superimposed over a matte painting. Ooh. Sign me up. Okay. So, anything else? I'm sorry.
I mean, the puppeteering. The puppeteering in Little Shop of Horrors was amazing, though.
Dude, I was blown away. What? I thought we had another THX situation on our hands. I thought someone went back and did it with CGI.
It almost looks like that.
It looks fucking amazing.
It does. They did a really good job. But of course, what's the guy who did it? He studied under Jim Henson.
Frank Oz.
Frank Oz, yeah. So he was like the puppet master back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, watch the movie just for that.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate. And what kept me watching, you know, I didn't hate the movie, but while I was watching it was like late at night, and I was just like, man, and especially every time there was no plant, and it was just like the guy and the girl singing about love. I was like, good Lord, wake me up when this is over.
Like when that Seymour song that he sang towards the end, I was like, when is this going to stop?
Wait, Seymour?
Yeah, like when Seymour finally is here. Like she's breaking up with the boyfriend, or well, not breaking up with the boyfriend. Right. But yeah, we have to give it to Steve Martin, though.
Oh, God.
Hands down, best Steve Martin performance I've ever seen in my entire life.
I have to agree.
I thought I was going to lose it every time he dismounted the motorcycle. It was so fucking funny.
Yeah. And just even like when he was in the dentist's office and he would have like that. Dude, that character was fucked up.
Yeah,
with
he
the
was.
Laughing gas and that thing he put on his face at the end.
Scuba gear of laughing gas.
Oh, my God.
That is so funny.
What a fucking tweaker.
And basically killed himself with laughing gas, right?
Yeah, dude. That movie is just, I just think it's certainly awesome and it's worth a watch, but tonally it's all over the place.
Yeah. If you like musicals and Broadway stuff, you'll enjoy it for sure. I'm not a huge fan of musicals, so
I don't know.
Yeah.
But so the
musical stuff is like there's no good catchy songs really.
Not a one.
You know, it's not like Les Mis where like you can sing every freaking song and
dude, I am not Les Mis is not my thing. I saw the Hollywood version from 2012 one time in the theater, and I could right now sing for you like 3 or 4 songs.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're very good.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I watched that movie one time. Not even the original.
Right.
Some fucking shitty Hollywood remake.
The original was so good.
Watch it one time 11 years ago.
And you still remember it?
Yeah.
Yeah. See,
no,
that
9
goes
years
to
ago.
show.
But anyway, and I watched Little Shop of Horrors yesterday. I could tell you not one lyric to one song.
Just the Seymour song for me, and it was only because it annoyed me so much.
Okay.
It was like so bad.
But what I do love about Little Shop of Horrors is the definite acknowledgement that it's sci-fi.
Yeah.
That the plant is from outer space. And how he talks about it, what he bought it from like some Chinese like kiosk.
Yeah, it was like some Chinese guy like downtown that sells like exotic plants.
Yeah. So he mentions that he did it on like the total eclipse of the sun.
Yeah, it was a total eclipse of the sun that day.
But dude, he kept saying that. I felt like every time they showed it, it was like an eclipse of the moon. It was weird, man.
But it was daytime.
Maybe I don't know, dude. Anyway.
But the plant appears during the eclipse. It wasn't there before when he did his first sweep by and was like, oh, I'm not going to buy anything today.
True, okay.
Like, you know, there's nothing that exotic. And then the eclipse happens, and then all of a sudden he says he hears something calling to him or singing to him, like a vibration.
Yeah.
And he turns around, and there it is. So he's like drawn to it.
So he goes, if you're not familiar with the movie, he buys this plant, and it's very small. Mm-hmm. It's like, it looks almost a little bit like a normal Venus flytrap.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like a Venus flytrap on mini steroids or something. But
bulbous.
Then he finds out that the plant has an affinity. Why can't I speak? An affinity towards human blood. So he gets a cut.
Oh yeah.
And that seems really good because without words, it totally conveyed that the thing only wants blood.
Yeah, it's
Although
not
I
interested in anything else.
did not ever at all watching that movie appreciate when it made like the kissy with its lips.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck, man? Stop. You're like suckling for blood. It's creeping me
I think that's the
out.
point. It's like it's a baby looking for the tit.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
There you go.
That's what I got out of it.
Okay, that makes sense. Well, creep me out.
It is creepy.
Because it's not a baby.
regardless.
It's a fucking plant.
Yeah.
With teeth.
And it wants your bloody finger.
Yeah, so then Rick Moranis like just starts feeding it blood. Like he keeps cutting his finger and letting it suck the blood out of his finger, and it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and it gets really massive. And through it becoming massive, it saves the floral shop because everyone wants to come and buy things to look at the giant plant. And
then he starts getting really famous for it,
right?
Which the plant then tells him he's controlling all that.
Right.
So, like, if he keeps feeding him,
Yes.
then he'll keep making his life better.
Yeah.
And he'll get the girl, and he'll have the fame and the money. And
The plant's like the devil.
yeah,
Making a deal with the devil.
totally.
But it's just cool at the end, man. Like the plant explains in a song, I guess, that he is from another planet and he intends on taking over the world.
Yeah, like that was his whole purpose.
Which is very cool.
And that he would spawn children, and that would be all over the world and then eat everybody. Yeah.
I think that's the idea
the plan.
that's how he would. But like, how does he? Maybe I don't know enough about plants. Can one plant reproduce?
You can spawn plants, yeah. So like that plant right behind you, you could take the roots from one of the leaves, one of the stems going into the soil, and then create a whole nother plant from that by just
Really?
Yeah, you would put it in water and then let the roots grow and then replant it, and then a whole nother plant grows from it.
Weird. I mean, it's weird.
Basically like kind of more like, I mean, it's not cloning, but you know what I mean? You're just like taking the same plant and then just transporting it into a different pot.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So there's no like genetic difference. It's the same thing.
It's the same
repeated.
thing.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it would be weird to apply scientific logic to the Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just a plant from outer space,
Right.
and it wants human blood.
I did love when he had all the little ones pop up on him and they started singing and talking with him. Quite silly.
I did, and like you said with the CG or the special effects, dude, amazing.
Yeah.
Like amazing. I was wholly and completely tricked. I did not know what I was looking at.
Yeah, they did a really good job.
It was amazing.
It was like they built a whole room around like the plant too, because like I liked how his tentacles were climbing up on the wall when he was like at rest, because he didn't talk to anyone but Rick Moranis's character, so like no one knew for the longest time. So he'd be like all plastered against the wall, pretending to be just a plant.
Yeah, and I loved. Like I think I said to you guys earlier, when he, like anytime the plant would rear its head back and like you could just see all his little vines and leaves kind of do these subtle movements.
Yep.
It just looked amazing. It was menacing. Like
it was.
Because you're just, I don't know. It's so good. But
like he was silly and goofy, but menacing at the same time.
Yeah. And we got into like, his voice is a little weird in my opinion, but we don't have to get into that. It's just weird. What I'll say about his voice is that I find it strange when in movies, when you give an inanimate object a human voice and very specific human characteristics, it's just weird.
It is kind of weird.
But yeah, I mean, it's weird anyway to give a plant a voice.
Right.
So I guess weirdness spawns weirdness. So anyway, what else? I guess, so I'll just tell you about the final 4 stories.
Okay.
Which one of them was actually really good, and it's the next one.
Okay.
So the next one's called Cold War, and it's totally goofy. Especially because, like, it would be impossible to think of a lamer pun than Cold War.
Okay.
It's a war involving ice.
Oh.
Come on.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Yeah.
And just the very nature, like, what this story is about is so weird and wacky, and just what you just have to go with it, dude. It's about California. Okay, so it's about how Californians don't appreciate that Florida took the name the Sunshine State.
Yeah.
So Californians want to fuck with Floridians.
I can see why.
So what they do is they hire a Navy man, a guy from the Navy, to build a submarine and have it be an iceberg. So encase it in ice, but still have it be maneuverable.
Okay.
And they want this guy to drive the submarine up to Miami Beach.
That's not going to look out of place at all. A fucking iceberg off Miami Beach.
Exactly. just to fuck with people from Florida. Yeah. It's so weird.
I could just see it now.
It's so weird. And then I guess the idea is that to make people think that it's not so nice and warm in Florida and they should go to California. I don't know, dude. It'd be so weird. But what's funny is that, then there's some explanation as to how you could make a submarine look like an iceberg. Okay. Like how you would keep it cold enough.
Right, yeah.
So he
says, my question.
Well, that's one of the issues is, like, we need to do it at the perfect time because this thing's going to melt.
Yeah, you go through the Gulf Stream, that thing's going to melt in like an hour.
So what they do is, so they decide to take off. They build it and take off from a little north of Miami Beach so they don't have to travel far.
Gotcha.
So they take off early in the morning when it's dark. Mm-hmm. So when people start coming to the beach, they see there's an iceberg.
Right away. Yeah.
Whatever the fuck. Whatever that'll accomplish. And then... But what happens is they're floating down. It's nighttime, and they're floating down to Miami, and they see something in the water that's weird. Okay. And keep in mind, so this is post-World War II. So this is during the Cold War.
Okay.
So the threat of the threat of Russian submarines.
Yeah, it's legit.
Yeah, it's legit. So they find out that this anomaly thing that's happening, they're like, well, we're going to Miami. We have to go investigate this thing. Like, what the fuck is this weird thing over here? And they go and they find out it's a missile. Oh. But it's a test missile from a place in Florida.
Okay.
So, like, testing missiles over the ocean.
Gotcha.
So they're like, okay, that's just a test missile. Mm-hmm. Nothing to worry about. But then they get another blip on their radar, and it's a submarine. Mm-hmm. And they realize that it's a Russian submarine.
Uh-oh. Come
to steal missile technology secrets from this missile test.
Gotcha.
So they're creeping up to the missile, investigating it. So this dude's an ex-Navy man. He's like, I'm not just going to go fuck with Floridians if the Russians are trying to steal our secrets. Like, we got to do something.
Yeah.
But what can we do? We're a fucking iceberg. So that's like the joke. So that it's like, what? Like,
there's nothing else, no purpose of that sub but it being an iceberg.
Yeah.
Just to fuck with Floridians.
Yeah, dude. And so now they have to intervene in espionage. So what they do, so it's just so funny that they find out they can radio to this other sub. Mm-hmm. So what's funny is to imagine these Russians, and so there's more than one dude in the iceberg sub. Finds out that one of the guys speaks Russian.
Really?
So he gets that guy up to speak on the radio.
Uh-huh.
And so to these Russian spies in the submarine, what's funny is that they explain that they then have to go back to Russia and explain to their leaders that we failed to take in this test missile because a iceberg started speaking Russian to us. And that's just funny, man.
That is funny.
Like, that's how it ends.
Yeah, that's how it ends. Nice.
Is basically just explaining, like,
sorry, boss.
Can you imagine, like, what those Russians had to go back and explain that we did not complete our mission because an iceberg spoke Russian to us and told us to go away?
Right.
It's just funny.
I wouldn't want to be those guys. They probably got killed later.
Yeah, right.
I just love it was to fuck with Floridians because that's like the funniest shit.
Right?
I could just see it, some guy on the beach like, hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Look at that dang iceberg out there.
What's an iceberg doing in Miami?
Get the ice pick. We're going to go have us a beer party.
Mallory is allowed to make fun of Southern people because she's from the South.
I'm from Alabama, so
yeah.
It doesn't get more Southern than that.
Okay, so I'll just super quick the last three stories. What Goes Up is about trying to invent anti-gravity. And this one's like kind of cool, but I don't know. So what they do is they create this force field, this sphere of energy. Mm-hmm. I don't even know how to describe it, but it basically, it's 20 feet from the center to the outside, and they do a thing to gravity where they basically make 20 feet the equivalent of 4,000 feet.
Okay.
So increase the gravity.
Gotcha.
So that if you're within this sphere, like, it would take you the amount of time and energy and force the same as falling 4,000 feet to just fall 20 feet.
Okay.
So if you fall 20 feet, you don't get, like, you might break a leg or something, but you'd be all right.
Yeah, you wouldn't get too hurt, I guess.
So in this case, if you fell within this force field 20 feet, you would hit the ground.
Splat.
And fucking disintegrate, basically, because you fell 4,000 feet.
That's crazy.
Which is weird.
Yeah.
I don't know. But so they build this
someone
thing.
Created that?
Yeah, so they build this thing, and and it's just weird and interesting to think about. To get the guy from the outside of the sphere to the center takes 17 hours.
Oh.
Because you're pulling a human, something that weighs as much as a human, up a 4,000-foot cliff.
Oh, geez.
And that would take a while.
Yeah, I'd imagine so.
So it takes him 17 hours to travel 20 feet. And then when he gets to the center, guess what happens?
Does he fall in?
He slips and falls back.
Oh, jeez.
So he falls 4,000 feet.
Oh, my God.
In like a couple seconds. And they basically explain that he fell. So the best way to imagine it and how fucking crazy it is that he fell. He traveled 20 feet going 25,000 miles per hour.
That's fast.
So, yeah. And so they basically explain that he, like, I think just disintegrates when he hits the edge.
Huh.
Like he just poof into like just a cloud of red.
That's crazy.
It's fucked up.
That is fucked up.
But to imagine that, like,
yeah,
to fuck with gravity enough to make something...
I'm having a hard time visualizing it all.
To make something travel 20 feet at 25,000 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Like,
it would be like, yeah, boom.
It would be instant.
You.
So they explain that they don't see him fall, but they hear him screaming.
That's crazy.
It's super fucked up.
Yeah, because it would happen like quicker than a blink of an eye.
Yeah.
You can still hear him? That's nuts.
The second and last one's called Sleeping Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Such a lame title. Why would you do that? This one was kind of not that interesting. Basically, a guy snores way too much and wants to stop his snoring. And he's the inheritor of a large amount of money.
Okay.
And the scientist who can stop his snoring basically says, I will stop your snoring, but you got to write me into that will that you're a part of there. Mm-hmm. And I think the dude just injects him with something that makes him not sleep. Oh, so basically it's like I get all this money if I can make you not snore anymore.
Right.
So that's like, well, it's like, listen, dude, I can't sleep now, but he's like, well, I stopped you from snoring, so write me into that will. Yeah. And it goes like for a couple months, he lives without sleep. And he like runs out of books to read. It's miserable. A thing where it's like, it's not a problem because he's not tired and it's not affecting his health.
Gotcha.
But he's just bored. Yeah. He's just awake all the time.
Yeah.
And the reason he wanted to get rid of his snoring was because his wife was going to leave him.
Okay.
But now his wife like hates him because he doesn't have to sleep.
Yeah, he's just around all the time.
And and not only that, but he mentions one part where she begins to require him to produce every morning like a fully detailed and provable report as to where he went and what he did because she doesn't trust him.
What? Okay.
So then the dude tries to reverse the process and he just makes him go to sleep forever.
That's it?
Yeah, it's like how it ends.
All right. It was a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, and then the final story was basically, what was it? Oh, yeah. So this woman this married couple,
Uh-huh.
and the wife never stops talking.
Ugh.
So,
I know these people.
So then he wants to prove to her that she never shuts up. So he creates this device that he puts in the apartment that counts words spoken and divides them into his and hers.
Okay.
Based on the frequency of their voice.
Right.
And obviously, like, in like 2 hours, hers is like over 3,000 and his is like 1,000. So he's like,
yeah,
I'm right.
Yeah.
You talk too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then something happens where, like, she's at home and he leaves for work and he comes back and he doesn't tell her that he left it on.
Oh.
So when he comes back, he finds out that she fucking talks by herself.
All day long?
All day long.
Oh, jeez.
And, like, when he comes home from work, it's at, like, 24,000.
Oh, my God.
Or something ridiculous. And then in the end, like, it turned out that the guy who invented the thing was Harry Purvis.
Oh, really?
And that his wife comes to the White Hart in the middle of this story, and she's like, "What the fuck are you doing here? Like, come home," and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Like, why are you here all the time? And
Yeah.
then, like, that's the last they ever hear of Harry Purvis.
Oh, Harry never comes back to the bar.
Nah, his talkative wife apparently talked him into
Poor Harry.
never leaving. I don't really know
Yeah.
what the point of that ending was. I probably missed it. I'm sure there was a point. But overall, I would say there are far more epic and profound Clarke novels and Clarke stories.
Yeah, these are a little light for him.
They're very light. So if
Yeah.
you're down with light sci-fi with, like, lame yet serviceable humor,
Yeah.
then
I was going to say, I've never seen Clarke kind of dip into some comedy before.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
it's a sight to behold when Clarke goes for comedy. I mean,
yeah.
because he's good at it, but in like a very hokey PG way.
I bet Purvis really is Clarke, like at the bar.
You know what? I'm glad you just said that so that I can tell you that you're wrong. Because I swear to God, dude. So the story is Harry Purvis tells the story, but tells the stories,
Right.
but he's not the one telling the story of Tales from the White Hart.
Huh.
I think at one story, someone talks to the narrator and calls him Arthur.
Oh,
So I think he is just a
Okay.
patron at this bar.
gotcha.
But it's only one line where someone says Arthur in reference to the person who's, like, the only person who's talking in the story when there's no quotes is Arthur C. Clarke
Right.
at the White Hart,
Gotcha.
I think.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because you're right. There is like an overall narrator, and then there's Purvis talking.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And you just assume that this whole story, it's, I guess, Purvis's voice speaking
Right,
to these
right.
people.
Or even just a narrator who isn't even in the world, who's
Right.
just narrating.
Yeah.
But I think it's Clarke.
It's an interesting concept.
Yeah. So, I mean, I knew this episode was going to be short because it's just a couple stories
Yeah.
and only one hardly sci-fi movie. But I don't know. Anything else? What have you watched or seen any sci-fi besides this and Little Shop?
No, we really haven't. Like, I've worked a lot lately, so we haven't been watching any shows or movies or anything lately.
Yeah,
I think we're going to watch Dawn of the Dead this weekend, probably.
Nice. It's Day of the Dead.
Oh, is it Day of the Dead?
But that's okay.
Which Dawn of the Dead?
Dawn of the Dead is the second one.
That's right.
Day of
It's
the Dead is the
second
third one.
Oh, it's the third one. Okay.
Yeah. The first one is Night of the Living Dead.
Gotcha.
Night, dawn, day.
Makes sense.
Usually you'd think it would go dawn, day, night,
You'd think.
but it's a cycle.
Yeah.
You can start anywhere.
It's dark. It starts at night.
Yes, and it's a horror movie.
Of
Can't
course.
start a horror movie in the morning.
They usually do, though.
In the morning?
Maybe not the morning, but during the day.
Day? Certainly. But
And
not
then
the
it
morning.
gets more ominous as it gets to be night.
Yeah. True.
And usually that's when some teenager who had sex too early dies.
You know, I recently saw a meme or something that was like, it's not premarital sex if you're not going to ever get married.
Like that.
If you have like no intention of getting married.
Right. Like, I just don't intend to get married, so.
Those slasher villains need to be a little more woke.
Yeah.
Realize that it's not a crime
Yeah.
for premarital sex if you're not going to get married. Jason.
Right.
Michael Myers.
Come on.
Freddy Krueger.
Who told you had to be the abstinence police?
Yeah, you burned, ugly knife finger son of a bitch. Okay. Who am I to talk shit about fake movie villains? All right, let's wrap this up, I guess.
All right.
It's a short episode.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the cover of this book?
I see. Just doesn't seem like it goes with it.
Yeah.
What is this supposed to be?
Yeah, exactly. That's a spaceship.
Yeah. And it looks like some debris out in space kind of wrapping around it.
Yeah, so that's not good at all. The picture I showed you is perfect.
I was going to say I really like the picture because it's Purvis's hand with all like the inventions and the stories coming out of it. That was
so
really cool. Yeah, that's kind of lame. I don't really like that one.
I do like the color, though.
I mean,
the purple.
Purple's my favorite color, so
it's nice.
I do like that.
Yeah. All right, well, if you're like me and you did not know that Clarke ever wrote a Bradbury-esque collection of short stories where they're all connected in a clever and entertaining way, then I 100% suggest that you read Tales from the White Hart. If you're only interested in the profound, maybe just the novels, these epic space adventures, then avoid it because there's really no space.
No, not at all. Yeah.
Not at all. So, I mean, yeah. What else? Okay, let's. What's happening next time? Oh yeah, next episode is another collection of short stories that Clarke put out a mere 1 year after this one, and that collection is called The Other Side of the Sky. My co-host for that one will be Heather, and we're watching 2 movies, which are weird sci-fi, more recent sci-fi movies.
Yeah, what's even out? There's no recent sci-fi stuff out right now, is there?
I mean, there's always new sci-fi on Netflix.
But I mean, if it's going to be good. It's not.
I don't even know. New science fiction. Yeah, I don't know.
Add it in the comments.
Yeah. I mean, Kong versus Godzilla is kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
But
I will watch that.
Yeah.
Just because of what we talked about.
Yeah. I got 30 minutes in and shut it off. But that's just me.
Godzilla's so cute, though.
Yeah, you know what's not cute?
What?
Is when 2 giant monsters that are taller than skyscrapers both stand on top of a floating aircraft carrier and fight. When I saw that, I was like...
It's just beyond believable.
There's a fucking limit, dude.
Yeah.
Like, just, why isn't this a cartoon? Just make it a cartoon if you're going to do shit like that.
Right?
Like,
yeah.
How are you standing on that aircraft carrier? But anyway.
That's for another talk.
Yes. So please join me next time. We're going to be talking about The Other Side of the Sky, which is more, space sci-fi. It's not these, what's the word? Light-hearted little sci-fi tales. And then the episode after that, we're back to the novels with A Fall of Moondust, which is a good novel. And the first time, we've been doing this podcast since January. It's now April. We haven't even left the 50s yet.
Yeah, we haven't.
So A Fall of Moondust 2 weeks from now will be our first Clarke story released in the 60s.
Nice.
And the 60s is a good decade.
I was going to say, that's my favorite decade.
For sci-fi. You know why?
Why?
Because it's the same decade that 2001 came out.
That's what I thought.
So we're like approaching the Clarke pinnacle, like the moments in the 60s and 70s when I think he wrote
found his
best.
Voice.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So tune in next time. Thank you so much for joining us this time, and
see you on the other side.
Yeah, see you on the other side of the sky.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode of The Space Dreamers, a Sue Madre production. See you next time.